Ooh, what's good, Bulls fans and Horniacs, and welcome to another postseason edition to the Horns Over Hoops podcast. I am your host for the evening, Sal-Bass. Dan Gracie and Scott Berman got the day off, so I'll be your captain for the evening. But I won't be navigating this ship solo. No. Because joining me today is a new good friend of mine. You know him from the Let's Talk Bulls podcast. I'm talking, of course, of Quinton Q. Q, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for being on here.
Nothing much. Thank you for having me. Just ready to start an off season of Bulls news and thoughts of a bunch of trades that may or may not happen, and just going through the ringer.
Yeah. It seems to us like the best part of the bull season is the off season because then we can go back to like discussing rumors and what could possibly happen, kind of pull our minds from the dumps a little bit.
Yeah, it's like you get a chance to actually have hope again. Like I feel like the off season, it's super happy. We're all wondering what's going to happen, what trades are going to be made, and then the season starts. We see how bad we are, and then that trade just slowly works its way.
Yeah, it does seem like the off season is the brighter side of suffering when it comes to being a Bulls fan. Well, Q, thanks for joining us. I thought before we get into our show, I'd like to give our fans and your fans a little interview, find out a little bit who you are, because much like ourselves, you're new to the game too, aren't you?
Yeah, I started at the start of the off season last year, and it's been almost a year now of just grinding and trying to figure this all out, trying to learn what the podcasting world is. So, yeah, definitely new, definitely trying to grow and learn the overall game of how this works.
Yeah, you said it right. The game, there's so many avenues to climb down. It's literally like a Pandora's box. It's not just record your voice. There's like editing and YouTube shorts and YouTube, and I don't even want to get I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole yet, but let's start this off with what got you into basketball, man?
I mean, the biggest thing I have to say is Derrick Rose. Um,
Oh, yes.
it's
We're
it's
already
it's
starting
one of those.
good.
I love to tell the story. When I was a kid, I was always a baseball person. I grew up playing baseball. I worked for Wrigley as a security and as like a photographer. So like the Cubs were my thing for years. I remember having my first like Derek Lee jersey. Like that was my team. That was my sport. And I never really paid too much attention to basketball. Like I played it with friends every now and then. Was never too good. But it just became one of those things where I remember being just old enough to be with the adults. I went to I think it was like a Thanksgiving party. It was some type of party with my family. And downstairs, my uncle has a theater set up. So like the
Ooh,
elevated seats, the
yeah.
screen, like the hallway where you walked out with movie posters, everything. And it was my
Yeah.
first time hanging around the adults. And that was the NCAA finals game against Derrick Rose and Beasley. So that was my
Oh,
first
wow, what a
real,
game.
yeah, that was my first real time watching like an actual game and understanding like people talking about Derrick Rose and this kid from Chicago who's gonna go, first overall, and with this option. And I remember the people talking about, should it be Rose or should it be Beasley? Who's the better scorer? Who's
Mhm.
gonna be the better player? And when we drafted Derrick Rose, I started watching because I saw that game and I liked him. Right. I just liked the storyline. And that's what made me look at games. And a lot of it was just me playing on my phone or playing, video games and just having the game on in the background. And about halfway through that season, I started to find myself like watching the game completely. And it became a thing where a lot of people who know me personally know that when it comes to something new, I try to put everything into learning it, whether it's watching videos, whether it's watching hours of tutorials. So with basketball, when I started to fall in love with it, I spent so much time just watching games and wanting to know why things happened or why people made certain decisions. And that's what really got me in love with the team. Of course, Derek had his injury, which
Yeah.
was me falling in love with something and then immediately being heartbroken.
Oh, yeah.
But it was one of those things where even after that, my brain was hooked. Like I was in love with it, and I've been watching the Bulls ever since. And I haven't. The last couple years has been serious, where I've watched every single game, recorded it, made sure I've seen them all. So that's really where it came from.
That's a chore in and of itself, being able to watch every single game because life happens and it's like, oh, I can't do this because the Bulls played it. I can't do that. We got to schedule around that. But that's really cool. Did you ever play for school or anything? Not just rec,
No,
intramural?
played it
No.
for fun. I didn't make my JV team in college. Don't know how I did that. I shouldn't have made it. Um, I think the only reason I made it was because I applied for a tryout and then threw up and almost passed out, outworking the people who were actually good. And I won't forget it either. Like I remember throwing up, being terrible, like terrible, but getting a steal on a pass. So like the point guard was running off of the screen and I shot the gap and stole it and went down the court. I missed the layup, completely smoked the layup, like 100%. But I will never forget the coach looking at everyone and be like, "This kid is literally about to pass out, and he's playing harder than all of you."
Hey man, hard work trumps skill any day, man. I play rec league every Tuesday, and there's some kids that you could tell they're just gifted. They work on it every day, but like the late. I don't want to say lazy, but like they don't have to try very hard to be good. And then there's the guys like me. I'm not very good, but I'll literally play until I pass out, even though it's rec league. You know what I mean? I'll go until I can't go no more. So I feel that.
Yeah,
That's
that's what
awesome.
kind of brings me to my favorite bull. Because Derrick Rose is my favorite player of all time, but my actual favorite bull is Jimmy Butler. That's because like when I started playing, I was so terrible. Like I can't like even today, I cannot dribble for anything. Like there's nothing I can do. If you pass me the ball, it's going to get passed immediately. So whenever I play with friends, my whole mindset was I'm gonna give everything I have on defense that I can do. Right. It
Yep.
doesn't involve me having a bunch of coordinated skills with my hands to dribble a basketball, but it's something I can pick up. And as long as I'm giving 100%, people will see it. So like watching him come into the league was amazing to see. And I keep it as a keepsake. But to this day on Facebook, there is a post from Jimmy's first year with me saying he's going to be an all-star. So for the
Oh
rest of my life,
wow,
I will have that
really?
post on Facebook, knowing that I knew immediately
Oh,
at the
that is
beginning what
awesome.
was going to happen. And it was just having that connection of someone who 100% was like, I may not be able to shoot, but I can give you everything else I have. But yeah, it's just about giving effort.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's awesome that Jimmy is your favorite player because he was kind of a gift to the team because like I know people expected him to be good, but I don't think we expected him to be that good both two ways, defensively and offensively. And then later on, after Derek gets traded, taking the reins of a team that, a couple years prior were in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, I mean, he had a huge mountain to climb. So that's a hell of a player to pick for your favorite player. I respect that. So what actually got you into podcasting and covering our mediocre Bulls for that matter?
Well, one, I've always had a love for photography and videography. It's kind of my ultimate love in reality. I went to school for graphic arts, and I've halfway through it realized I didn't want to do it. um, and then I fell in love with photography. I took a photography class. I really had to get my first camera for the first time, and I started to do, portraits and headshots and corporate headshots and things like that. And I fell in love with the art. Self-taught 100% after that, and I think what really got me into podcasting is a way for me to have everything I love to do in one place. I get to shoot videos, right? I get to do lighting, as you see from behind me. Like I get to make up these things that I see in my head and make them a reality. And not only that, I get to talk about a team that I love and watch every game. But the big reason I have to give shout out to Chicago Bulls Central Hayes. Watched him for 2.5, 3 years almost, and he tells a story about his dad telling him to just start. Right? Don't be a bitch, just do it. And watching that really made me think, like, why don't I just try? Right? What's the worst that could happen? I've tried YouTube before, getting 1 or 2 views. And like I remember trying a vlog channel when I was younger because everyone did that, and trying sketches at one point and doing all these things. So I figured, what's the worst that could happen? And
Yeah.
when I did it, I just fell in love so much that I didn't care what happened. And I saw one of your episodes where you guys talked about it. The numbers, I think it was just the episode with the recap of the season. The
Yeah.
numbers don't matter, right? Like when you start thinking about the numbers, that's when you get stressed. But when you just have fun, when you just get to sit after a hard game, talk to just, the camera and say, this is what I think. This is
Mhm.
how my feelings are. This is what I want to get off my chest, and know that you can do that and it will be received by people, right? Um, so doing that is what really got me started. And then Hayes kind of giving me a shout out and following me and being able to kind of like talk to him and meet such a great, fandom on Twitter, which is its own another world at this point, if we're being honest. Um, But yeah, I mean, I would say that's what really got me into it was having that first. What's the worst that could happen other than no one watches it?
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out Hayes, by the way. I've actually been talking to Hayes. We're gonna be trying to start something soon. That's really cool that he got you into it and I found him because I found you right after I mean, I followed you throughout the season, of course, but we really started connecting when the Bulls dropped that embarrassing Miami Heat loss for that play-in game. But and it was funny because no matter how depressed everybody was, we were still all happy as a Bulls Nation followers, and which shows you like it's really incredible that even though we have a cruddy team, like our fan base is just incredibly caring, and we're all so nice with each other. Like, it is an incredible thing. But I'm glad you referenced that because I was the same way with the numbers. That is like when we started this, I never wanted to be professional because if you notice, like when you follow the professionals, they have to give you a watered down contractile version of what they think. They're
Yep.
never able to tell you exactly how you feel. And I feel like us as fans and content creators, we're the only group of individual, fans who are able to tell exactly what they see. If they want to curse a team out, they can do so, no repercussions. You know what I mean? So it's really incredible. I'm glad. And you're certainly doing a phenomenal job. So keep it up.
Thank you.
And in your rookie year, nonetheless, this is your first year.
Yeah, that's the goal is putting a lot of work in research and like I said, like watching, tutorials and videos and spending hours trying to just, carve the craft and learn because there's so many people that I'll look up to that I want to be like, I want to have that professionalism. I want to be able to start my own thing. And just like you said, I want to be able to do it in a way where it's me, authentically me, where I do what I want. I say what I want. I'm going to tell you how I feel about the team. There's no ups or downs or saying something because it's going to be seen a different way. Like a big part of that is Javon Carter is a person who at the start of the season, I said it was going to be amazing. And my first video ever was Javon Carter is going to be great for this team. And that turned out to be absolute trash. But to be able to just cop on and say, like, no, he's dog shit. Like that's what he
Hmm.
is. He's terrible. And not have to worry about like someone looking at me like, hey, we need you to kind of calm down on this. Like we have this going on in the background. To be able to say, this is what I'm saying, this is how I feel. I know you guys feel the same way. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just being able to have that freedom is more than anything I could have asked for.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's pretty unanimous across the board. JC kind of disappointed everyone. I think we were all like, oh man, we got Javon Carter. We stole somebody from Milwaukee. This guy's going to be incredible. Fast forward to the end of the season. It's like, why is this guy even doing on our roster?
Yeah. Well, he would
Um,
be incredible if he took his first shot and didn't pump fake
yeah.
every 5
Yeah.
seconds.
Pump fake that
But
little 5, 6 foot sidestep and, miss.
and then he still doesn't shoot. Like that's the like he pump fakes, sidesteps, and then doesn't shoot. Like he'll drive and pass it. I don't understand for someone who's known to just be a shooter. It's crazy how often he doesn't shoot. Like it's like I would assume shoots more. At this point, I honestly think I would rather Drummond shoot a 3-point shot. Like at least he would have more confidence in himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, just shoot it. Yeah. His pump fakes were over the top there. But have you only followed the Bulls or have you followed other teams as well? As far as like sports wise?
Deep wise, as far as following, like in I'll start out with saying with basketball. Um, I've always been a Kobe fan. I am a LeBron fan. I still think Jordan is the greatest player ever to play, right? But I am not one of those people who, because I believe that, I think LeBron James is terrible. Like I think that's a crazy mindset to just say he's a terrible player. So I am a LeBron fan. I tend to watch his games every now and then, depending on whatever team he's on. A person who I'm really starting to want to watch more, and I probably will start next season a little bit more than this season, because I'm just doing some things to try to make this podcast greater for next season. Shea, I really am
Ooh,
starting to love his game, and like I think the athleticism, the scoring, like that's something I want to start to take a look at next season. Plus, I did start about month and a half, 2 months ago. I started a full NBA channel, so I also I'm going to be having that as well.
oh, that's awesome.
So that's going to be called the Got Next podcast, and it's going to be me just talking about the NBA, doing player breakdowns, having some fun series. A little bit more of a documentary style, clips from the NBA type of channel. So I'm gonna have to start watching more. um, it's a little bit easier with the Bulls with my job because I record every game, so I can just like a lot of times I'm watching games at work and on the way
Really?
home from work. Yeah, so like I take the CTA. It's a lot easier for me. People who live in Chicago, CTA is a lot cheaper than paying, a car note, and it's a lot quicker to just get where you need to go. So being able to watch the game whenever I need to and kind of get that in helps. But now the task is going to be starting to add other teams and start watching even more and getting myself really into that mindset.
Yeah, no, really, and you're right about that CTA because I live up in the upper suburbs, but I refuse to drive to Chicago just because of the fact that one, I could take a train and take the CTA to get around way cheaper than some of the parking that's down there. It's
Yep.
outrageous. I always
Yep.
talked about it with my fiance that if I ever moved to Chicago, the first thing I would do is sell my car. So,
Pretty much. Like I
yeah,
love the people are talking about the Bears right now. Like another team I'll follow, the Bears. Obviously. With their new stadium that they're trying to propose right now. The biggest question from everybody is where's the parking? And for me, I'm
yeah,
like, I'm 2 blocks from a train station. I don't need parking. I'll just hop on
no,
the train. We'll be good. Like I'm okay
yeah,
walking a little bit. Um, so I feel like that's a big thing where you start to understand when you're used to the train and you're used to the CTAs. If you know how to use it, you can get anywhere you need to. It's a lot cheaper. You're talking instead of me paying for gas and a car note, I could pay $4 and get myself to a Bulls game, a Bears game, a Cubs game, any type of sports event I want for a cheap amount and save the rest of that money for the highly priced food that's in the stadiums.
oh yeah. I think a beer for me was $14 when I went this year.
Yeah.
And it was like a domestic draft. I mean, price you pay going to see a sport at a stadium, but I remember when it was $8 and we were complaining like $8 for a beer, and now we're almost double that. And it's like $14 for a beer and you
Yeah,
want a
one of
tip?
one of my coworkers, he's 62 now. He said when he used to be like one of the hot dog guys. It was like 20 cents.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, so
How long ago
like
was that?
years, very very long time ago. But at this point, you might as well pay for a pack of whatever drink you're going to buy at a sports event.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I'm glad you shouted out the Bears because I was about to ask you, we're on the cusp of I know it's irrelevant, but on the cusp of the draft, who you got number one?
I got Caleb. You got to go Caleb.
Oh yeah.
I was a big part. I was one of those people who I love Justin. I think Justin's going to do amazing, absolutely amazing in Pittsburgh. I definitely don't think he'll probably play a lot this year, but I think once he gets that chance, he's not going to give it back. But when you look at the Bears, when you look at what Chicago needs, and when you look at the option, I told a lot of people talking about it because at work we could talk a lot about sports. When you look at what's happening with Caleb, as a front office, you can't not pick him. If you pick Caleb, and he won't because he's too good. But if Caleb ended up being the worst first overall pick ever, right? Absolutely trash. You would still look at the team and go, well, you kind of had to take the chance.
Yep.
If you pass on Caleb and he becomes Mahomes, you're fired. Like there's
Yeah.
like there's no way you could be the team that passed on Stroud, passed on Mahomes, and then also passed on Caleb Williams. You can't be
Yep.
that team. You have to take him. But I'm looking forward to it. From everything I've seen, he's super born and bred for this moment. He looks like he's gonna come in with a aggressiveness and a confidence that's honestly something we don't see a lot from Bears quarterbacks. So I definitely see him his first year doing good. I don't see him doing amazing. I think there'll be some learning curves. I do want to see um, what happens his first couple games. I have a bet with my coworkers a little bit of do you think he's going to throw an interception in his first game, trying to make a throw that maybe would have worked in college that won't work now. So
Ooh,
um, but I
I
think
like that
once he
bet.
gets used to it, yeah, right. I think once he gets used to it, he's gonna become that next great quarterback in the league.
Yeah. I think I was reading or I heard some on ESPN where it was like Caleb Williams is the pick where even if you don't pick him, you're going to be fired. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's one of those like you said, he's either a first round pick that's a bust and you can't blame him because he's he's number one. He showed he was a what do you call unanimous number one overall
yeah.
pick. Or he could lay a goose egg and so what, Uh last two questions, you kind of alluded to it. As a Bulls fan, LeBron, Kobe, or MJ, who you got as a GOAT?
So this is a controversial take for a lot of people, um, and I'll explain what I mean by this. I
Okay,
think
okay.
Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player to ever play the game. Right? Just a lot of times people will say he played against people who weren't as good. right? The people he played against were mailmen. They were, workers who just kind of played the game. When you look at how good he was compared to all of those people, and then you imagine if he had all of the same technology LeBron had, if he had the same rules, the same body care, right? When he grew up, they really taught him how to focus on the 3-point shot. We're talking about a whole new player. And let's be real. If Michael Jordan focused on 3-point shooting, he would be 4 times the 3-point shooter LeBron James is, if we're
Yeah.
being honest.
Yeah.
But I do think numbers wise, you have to say LeBron James is the GOAT.
Okay. I can
And I think
respect that.
I think there's a difference between being the greatest player ever and being the GOAT. The GOAT for me is a very stats based thing, right? You have the most points ever to be scored in the entire history of the NBA. At this point, the entire history of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yep.
can I fight with that, right? You're probably one of the best small forwards ever to play point guard.
Yeah.
One of the best
Yeah.
rebounders, best assist people numbers wise, best teammates number wise. The only
Yeah.
number he really doesn't really beat Jordan on is championships and the individual MVP numbers.
Correct.
So when
Yeah.
you look at overall numbers, when you look at stats, you got to say he's the GOAT. You got to say Jordan's the greatest player ever. And I love Kobe. Kobe is someone who's changed my life a lot, but I think it was Stephen A who said it. When you have a GOAT debate, right? Oh no, it was Ron Artest, I believe. Um,
Meta.
I mess it up. No, I am messing up. It's Gilbert Arenas. It was on the arena, Gil's Arena. If you have a debate for the greatest ever, the GOAT, the only 2 people who can be in that debate are the top 2. If you're
It's a
number
very
3, you
valid
can't
point.
be in that debate. It's not a debate. You're number 3. So the only time you could ever have a debate is the top 2 players who have ever played, because you have to decide between one of those 2 people. So I think Kobe's great, but I think all of us see him as probably the 3rd greatest player ever in the history of the league, or top 5 at least. So you
Mm-hmm.
just can't put him in the GOAT debate. You can only put him in the Mount Rushmore debate. And that's
Oh yeah.
my go-to.
I like that, dude. That was probably the most like lucid, well put out explanation on based on facts and not just opinions. Because I'm guilty of it too. A lot of us Bulls fans just say MJ because you know when you're as mediocre as the Bulls was, whatever you have to hold on to, we hold
Yep.
on to it and we squeeze it dry, man. So I was one of those. I still am, unfortunately, one of those. Like, nah, MJ's the king of everything. I will give credit where credit is due. I don't appreciate the fans that say that LeBron isn't a skilled athlete or he isn't in deservance of what he has achieved, because the man has achieved incredible things that players in the history of the game have never done, and he's still doing it. I think he's a tremendous athlete, both on and off the court, with his role as a family man. And if it wasn't for the talks between him and Mike, I would like him a little more, but I still do give credit to him. I still won't buy a LeBron jersey though.
Can't do. Like, people who say, like, have you had LeBron shoes? I'm like, Garen's a great player. I can't do the LeBron shoes. I gotta stick with my Jordans. I gotta it's just like
See, I
one
can't
route I
even buy
can't
the
go down.
shoes, mainly because they're so darn expensive, man.
That is true. I'm starting to try to run. Oh, I know my channel probably been wondering where I've been for a little bit. But I'm training for a 5K this year. So
Oh
um
yeah.
so I've taken a little break of channel videos and focused on my health and focused on trying to get myself ready for that, and get in shape and be the best me, for not just myself but for all of the fans who will be watching me next year. So I can definitely understand shoes are way too overpriced. But hey, when you look at it, you could buy a pair of shoes or you could buy 3 beers at a Bulls game. So
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm looking at those on clouds. Like, everyone's got those on clouds now. So I slide over and I try to see how much they cost, and they want $180 for these shoes,
yep.
if not more. And
I will say though, I would do it.
yeah.
I just bought Brooks, the Brook brothers.
Ooh.
For years I was like, I'm never gonna buy those shoes. It's just weird. But with me wanting to run, I was like, I need something that's supportive. I need something that's good. And I made the choice to do it. And I bought them strictly just to run. And those things are so comfortable. I will be buying myself another pair to wear around.
Okay.
So I would say,
Okay.
like, when you come to those, like, really comfortable shoes that are worth it, I would say if you're looking at that on clouds for 100 and, 80 versus a pair of Jordans for 260, but the on clouds are gonna be way more comfortable for your body, just comes down to comfort.
Yeah, yeah. I know, I was introduced to Brooks last year. We wear them they wear them at work. I don't wear them because, again, I wear whatever they give me, but,
Yeah.
a couple of my coworkers, like, it changed the life of, how I walk and everything, makes them
Yeah.
feel better when they walk.
Yeah, like, I
But
think the ones I have a rubber on it, so, like, it keeps your foot straight, like, they're, like, supportive rubber
oh, wow.
that helps you from, like, especially for people who have flat feet, like, it's
Ye
meant to, like, keep your arch and support your foot, like, I've never seen a pair of shoes that had that, it's a whole new world.
I might have to look into that because I am rather flat-footed.
Yeah.
Last question before we move on to the more depressing topic, and that is our mediocrity of a team, and that is, if you could buy one jersey right here, right now, of any player who ever played, period, who would it be?
Does it have to be a Bulls player?
Nope, nope, anybody. It could be Caitlin Clark, I don't care.
I really want the Angel Reese jersey, I'm not gonna lie.
Same,
The hype
same.
is very big on the Angel Reese jersey, but just I gotta stick with my hype right now. Caleb Williams. Just
Caleb
I
Williams,
I gotta give me a Caleb Williams jersey. Like you're talking the next player who will probably be the right behind Michael Jordan as one of the greatest players ever in Chicago history. And then if we do get the stadium, in the next 7 to 8 years that they're trying to plan, I would love to wear a Caleb Williams jersey to the opening day of the
oh, that'd
Bears'
be
new stadium.
nice. Yeah,
Bears,
because,
if this is something you want to help out with, I
shout out
won't.
Chicago Bears, help us
Yeah.
out here. What number do you think he takes? Because I've been watching that debate because Keenan's taking 13.
It's weird. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like he can't take one at this
Right.
point, but he might. Just to like from what I've seen with his confidence, he might just say, "No, I am the new the new Justin Fields. I'm everything that he was supposed to be." I would love to see him take 0.
Yeah, I saw that. That looked really cool.
I feel like it would just be cool. It's unique. If you're gonna come to the city and be something we've never seen, let's do a number we've never seen. Let's just make everything fresh out the gate. Zero years in the league. Keep that number. Um, and I feel like as a quarterback, he's probably gonna go down instead of up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I don't see him wearing 3. I could see him taking 1, although I'm sure he'll receive a couple angry phone calls from Bears
Yeah.
fans, like, number 1 in Chicago. What you know what I mean? What is it about it that when they see somebody wear number 1, it gets them all riled up?
Oh no. See, if it's another sport, I'm fine. It
Mhm.
was when they were talking about Dragic might wear number 1 for the Bulls,
Yeah,
where I understood the
yeah,
outrage,
yep,
but I feel like you can't stop number 1 from the entire league, especially if anyone could wear number 1,
right.
Caleb
Do you
Williams.
Yeah. Just speaking of which, do you remember when, Michael Carter Williams was rumored to wear number 1? I don't know if you followed back then because it
Yeah,
was after,
yeah. Can we just
and he
forget
was
about
like
Michael Carter Williams ever playing on this team?
yeah, him and Javon
Some
Carter.
There's so much hype around him too, like, "Oh my god, we got a tall point guard, he could play."
Yeah, yeah.
Disappointment.
Ba Basically, if your name is Carter, that means you're not gonna pan out on the Bulls
Oh,
that well.
wow. Oh, wow. No, that's very true. Oh, that's sad, actually.
Well, Q, thanks for answering those questions for us. I'm glad that we got to introduce, our fans to you because you're a stellar guy. Now
Thank
let's
you.
get you worked up and talk about the depressing Bulls here. So,
Rant
uh
incoming. No.
yeah, no, please rant away. First and foremost, we did finish up the season. As we know, we've all gotten our growing pains out. And as a whole, what would you give this season letter grade wise based on both achievements and expectations?
I would give this year, I would say a C,
See, okay.
low C minus. I think when you look at the coaching, we all hate Billy. It's just what it is. He's not going anywhere, so he can't really do much. Um, I think that the saving grace of this team was watching Kobe, watching Io take that step forward. Seeing Dalen Terry, even though he still can't shoot, regardless of what he does in the world. I don't understand it. Um, But seeing him learn how to play defense, seeing him have confidence, seeing him do things that show you like, oh, he could be a great defensive player on this team going forward, a great energy guy. I think that was the thing that saved it from a D or an F. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of bright spots. I mean, when you look at this team, the two best players on this team stats wise are DeMar and Alex Russo. They're leading in basically almost all stats other than rebounds, which is Vooch, which we don't even need to talk about Vooch. This team had a lot of weird people who don't do certain things had to do those things for them to even be in contention, right? For the Bulls to be good, Alex Caruso had to become one of the best 3-point shooters in the
Yeah.
league at his position.
Yeah.
That's saying something, right? We literally signed Torrey Craig and Javon Carter to watch Alex Caruso shoot better than both of them.
Yep.
So I feel like going 2 years with no changes, no trades, terrible offseason pickups, along with all of the press conferences of continuity and consistency and coaching and collaboration and all of the other C's that you could possibly bring up in this world. And just watching AK smirk, knowing that we're all angry. I think that it just was one of those things where you saw in some games the Bulls aren't not caring. And I know I've been one to say it in videos where there's games where they look like they don't give a shit. But you can see a lot of these games, they want to win. They suck at trying to do it. They fall into bad habits, but they're trying to do something. And I think a big part of that you saw a lot of the season was Kobe White. You can tell when
Mhm.
they were going to lose. Kobe White, whenever the Bulls were down 15 or 16, and you saw Kobe White just go like this whenever something didn't go his way, you knew they were going to lose.
Yep.
Like
I
it's
did
like, oh,
notice
he's
that.
giving up. He knows they lost. DeMar knows
Yep.
they've lost. He's angry, right?
Yep.
I think that's what this team needs to work on is having that grit and understanding that if they can do that, then we can be a better team. But yeah, you can't really go above a C minus with this team. Like
No.
you
How
got one or two
appropriate.
C
How
words
appropriate.
for the
C
entire
word.
entire C. Yeah, it's what we are. The Chicago Bulls. This C in Chicago stands for everything you need it to. Um, but yeah, that would be my grade.
I think the only C that I'm looking forward to would be change. That's the only
Yeah.
C word I want to see is
Or
change.
new coaching. New coaching would be great. I would
Yeah.
love that.
Another C word. Look at that. So I know that we didn't achieve very much this year, but what would you say as a whole would have been the most successful aspect of the season?
Kobe White.
Kobe
The
White.
team knows officially whose team it is. I think a big thing you've seen the last couple of years is whose team is this? Is it DeMar's team in the clutch? Is it Zach's team? Is it Vooch? Vooch is technically there. Do we play through Vooch? Do we not play through Vooch? Do we let DeMar take over? And people were taking turns. This was a year where we all officially have come out and said it's Kobe White's team.
Yep.
Zach's gone. We are going around Kobe White. And honestly, I didn't hear a lot of people talk about it. Um, in the press conference with AK, they asked him about DeMar and Zach and if he wants them back. He jumped over the question and they asked the second time, and
Yep.
he answered the question. DeMar has been great. Both sides want to do something. Didn't say a word about Zach LaVine.
Nope.
That tells me everything I need to know.
Oh yeah.
So it is officially Kobe's team. We know what's going to happen. We know they're going to build around him. We know the draft picks we have this year aren't going to do anything special, right?
No.
Talking about the trade options, none of us want Trae Young. None of us
No.
think we're going to get Paul George. So
No.
it leaves you with Kobe has to be that person. I think with I would assume I think with Patrick Williams, Julian Phillips getting minutes, they know Kobe's the one. Now everyone can watch his growth. If you're a Patrick Williams, if you're a Batim, if you're a, Io, you're looking at, oh, I had a bad year, but he had a bad year. Look what happened the next year. Look what he learned. Look what he did. Look how he grew. So now we
Mhm.
have a consistent way of telling our young players what's going to happen. You go to the offseason, you grind, you learn things, you work on your game, and you build that confidence because once that confidence is built, that's when you become an NBA star.
Yep.
So I think that would be the biggest bright side of this year is knowing that we have a player who had a chance of winning most improved player. He should have won, for being completely 100% honest, because at this point he's not going to win next year unless he becomes, top 8 in the league. I don't know how you can
Yeah.
improve even more. Um, but it's one of those things where we now have hope. the Bulls can develop a player. We can
Mhm.
teach people how to shoot better. We can have young players not get traded away 3 years in. We're not going to repeat the Jimmy Butler issue. That's what we want to see as a team is, okay, maybe we're not the best, but we have a plan. Let's keep fighting through that plan.
Yep. Yep. I know I said it before and you alluded to it right there. The biggest struggle that we've had, I'll say post Jimmy Butler era into this new era is direction. Like where do we move this team? Who's got the reins? You know what I mean? Like you said, is it DeMar? Is it Zach? Now I think we both agree that this is looking like it's going to be Kobe White's team, and God, I hope so, because that man is a stellar athlete, and I'm with you. I'm super depressed. I don't know how you don't win most improved player when the only other two options were Şengün and Tyrese Maxey. Because Tyrese Maxey, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, he was already an established good player. So how much did he really improve? You know?
I blame Bam.
Yeah.
All of this happened after Kobe got hurt. If Kobe
Yep.
doesn't get hurt, Kobe's most improved. It is,
Yeah.
of course, the Heat. Of course, Jimmy's team's the one that stops us from seeing greatness.
Yeah.
Um,
Again.
it's a curse. It's the curse of letting people go from Chicago.
Yeah. So if you had to make one change organization wise, what do you think that you would change? Of course, we've already seen some movement. The Bulls not telling Chris Flemings he's not returning. We all know Chris Flemings this year. We just learned his name after he got in an altercation with John Collins. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I don't think very many people knew who Chris Flemings is. He got dismissed, and I believe Mo Cheeks has been reassigned. I don't quite know what role they gave him, but he
Yeah.
just got
No one
reassigned.
no one knows. It's the same thing they did with Billy. They came out and said something, but didn't really tell us anything about what was said. For all we know, he got signed to a secret 4-year extension in some other part of the entire team. Also, crazy part about Chris Flemings. Imagine getting choked on national television and then getting fired.
Yeah, no
Like
kidding.
that's a sad year. That's
I know.
um but yeah, as far as a change, if I could, the easy answer is new coach, right? And I don't want to do the easy answer. I think the biggest change for the Bulls I would do is find a young athletic center.
Yeah, I
We need
like
it.
that.
Um, I don't think we'll get him just luck, but Claxton would be
Oh,
amazing.
yes.
Um, or even not even if it's Claxton, if it's an older person, like we would never get him in the history of ever. But Brooke Lopez, like that type of player on this team, where imagine a lineup of Kobe, Io DeSubu, Patrick Williams, Alex Caruso, and they can not have to worry about taking chances because you have a center who's 7'2" in the back,
Yep,
just ready to block shots. Right, this entire team changes if you have
yep.
that, and you see it sometimes with Drummond. When Drummond's having a good game defensively, we're a different team, and then he fouls out, and then we are no longer a good team. So I think having a chance to have a young center come in, maybe he's not the best scoring center. Maybe he has to learn his offensive game, but he's going to play defense. He's going to do all of the things you need him to do, the gritty, the dark and dirty things. So you're not having Javonte Green play a power forward. If
Yeah,
we can get that, this team goes to a whole new level, right? You think of Kobe White with a lob threat, and now it's crazy.
wow. That's a scary
Especially
thought.
if yeah, especially and what I want Kobe to work on, I hope and who knows, he maybe see it. I don't know what Bulls players watch podcasts. But the one thing I want to see from Kobe is I want him to learn that Trey Young, Javante Murray, like stop pull up and the crab that draws fouls. I think
Yep,
that would be such a great thing for his game. You see it work on every other team when they do it. Brunson does it as well. If Kobe could learn how to do that as well as his hesitation, his change of pace, and then have a lob threat also, what do you do? And I
yeah,
think that'll save a lot of that double teaming Kobe, him trying to struggle to figure out how to score against teams. I think that was a big thing towards the end of the season. If he can start doing that and get to the free throw line 5, 6, 7 times a game, have that threat to just throw the ball up if he does get into a situation that's a little dicey, I think it'll change a lot for his game.
yeah, yeah. We did just see the emergence of Kobe White, and I don't even think, like you'd mentioned, I don't think we've seen the top of his skill set. I think he's just going to continue to improve. Um, but speaking of players that have achieved stuff, what players do you think need to go? I mean, of course, we saw that. I think Casey Johnson reported that. Of course, we know the Levine should be the focal part of the offseason. that's going to be a challenge in and of itself because of his contract complications and how much he gets paid, as well as the injuries, yada, 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 so on and so forth. But what other players do you think need to be moved from this roster or have overstayed their welcome, so to speak?
Javon Carter.
Okay, perfect.
I don't even care. Pay him out. If we can start a GoFundMe, whatever has to happen, just don't let him touch the ball ever again. Like, give him Felicio's situation. Just sit on the bench. Don't do anything. We're giving you a lot of money. Great. You have front row seats to every game. You can watch basketball and get paid millions to do so. I think
all the
that'll be a
Gatorade
big
you
move.
can drink.
I think Torrey Craig. I don't think we need Torrey Craig. I think Javonte Green showed he can shoot the three at this point just as well as Torrey Craig was shooting it throughout the season. He's less injury prone. I feel like he's not going to twist his ankle every 5 seconds. So
he's not going to throw a lob off the backboard.
Man, leave it to the Bulls to have probably the most embarrassing play of the season. Like,
and then they freeze frame it.
It's just the worst. Like, I feel bad for him too. That was on par with John Collins having Ayo Dosunmu lay on top of him during a celebration. Like, that's that level of embarrassment where you're just, or even in the latest game, Anthony Davis being stuck in that giant pile of people happy that they hit the game winner. Like, those are the things where you're like, oh, look, Apple. Those are the things where you're really just like, oh my God, this is happening. I don't know what to do. I also don't know why he would go for that. Like, when have you ever seen him throw any type of oop to anyone? Like, he thought down 10 was the perfect time to show that he could do it. And I think everyone in the entire arena knew that should have went to Drummond.
Yep.
Like, he got the steal. Give him the ball.
Give the big cat, feed the big cat, man. And then, of course, the next play, Drummond twists his ankle and is out for a few games. And of course, did you hear Adam Amin, or I think it was Stacey or Adam, where they're like, that summarizes the Bulls season in one play right there.
Yeah. And even more to summarize our season, he comes back and then injures Alex Caruso by stepping on his ankle.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's got to be a record. The Bulls have to have the record this season for the most players with a foot injury.
Oh, no kidding. And multiple foot injuries for that matter.
Like, every other week, it was like foot, ankle, foot injury. I was like, what is happening with this team? And then it was always, oh, it's a twisted ankle. Actually, it's not twisted. We need surgery. So they're actually not coming back. So, but I think Torrey Craig got to go. I think for us to do what we want to do in the future, Andre Drummond has to go. I hate that. Yeah. I love Andre. I want him on this team. But I think you just got to let him go. I think it's one of those things. And then last, if we're talking about gotta go, depending on what the option is, if there's a chance to trade for a star, Dalen Terry.
Yeah. I
love him, but the way he shoots is just sad. And I feel like you can get someone who plays defense, who plays aggressively. Like, if there was an option to trade Zach, Dalen Terry, and throw Javon Carter in there, it won't happen. But do that for like a Paul George in a sign and trade because he wants out. Bye, Dalen. He plays defense. Like, we can make it up. So I feel like those are the people who I feel like this team has to get rid of. I don't want to lose Alex Caruso. I think he sets this team's, like, he is our Haslam. He encompasses everything you want the Bulls to be. The aggressiveness, the 100% mentality at all times, the playing on the defensive end, the talking, because the Bulls talk like a middle school team who's never played basketball before. I've never seen a team who just doesn't talk on defense whatsoever. And Kobe's starting to learn that from Alex. So I think having him on this team, having him show us showing us the way that the Bulls should play, the way the team should have their roster go, it's something you got to take a couple of sacrifices for if you're building.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, because where one of our many bad habits is trading good players away too soon, another bad habit we have is holding on to assets too long, even though we're not going to use them, thus decreasing their trade value, and now we're just stuck with them. So that's a good option. Those are some very, very good scenarios there. What about players you would want to acquire. We'll start with we got the draft coming up here soon. So who would you want to see drafted, position wise or player specific?
Position wise, I'm not gonna lie. I want a power forward. I want a center.
Yeah,
Like, I
same.
think that that's something that we're constantly lacking. Like, Vooch is just he's not doing what you wanted him to do, and I don't think that's 100% Vooch. I think it's the scheme. I think the way Billy runs, the team. We don't look for him in the post. You've seen when Vooch plays in the post and they get him in the post, he does great. Those games when we do a double big lineup and him and Drummond are both backing people down and getting in their position, it's wonderful. But then we do that for one quarter, and then the Bulls just go, "Okay, cool, we did it. We got you started. We're not going to pass you the ball anymore. You can shoot threes the rest of the game." Like I don't think we use him right. So I would love to have a young center who can't shoot. I think that's where the issue lies. The Bulls all season, you could probably go with this. The Bulls all season have tried to outshoot teams when they go down by a big margin.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Whether it's Cleveland, whether it's OKC, if they start getting hot from three, we're like, oh, they can shoot. Okay, we got to start throwing up threes so we can catch up. There's a wide open lane to the basket. No, take a three. We're down 15. Yep. And I think that's starting to go into their minds where they're like, oh, Vooch is open at the three. Just pass him the ball. We don't need the two. When you see Drummond in there, they know he can't shoot. There's only one option. So we can get a young center, we're not going to get him because he shouldn't be an NBA player, if I'm being honest. Edie.
Yeah.
If we can get a player who's tall like Edie, who's good on defense, but plays 2 feet and in, I guarantee you the Bulls stop doing what they do with Vooch.
Yep.
Because there's no other option but to pass him the ball where he likes it. And he can't shoot, so you have no other choice. If we can get that, we'll make good strides. So I definitely think that as far as specific players, I haven't gone too far into the draft. I think that's going to be one of my big things for the next year that I want to learn and study. Kind of getting into the NCAA game, getting into the draft, and also just learning the numbers game as far as the salary cap and those type of things. I feel like I love basketball. I've loved the game. I've learned a lot about the processes and the thoughts of on the court, what's happening, why it's happening. But when it comes to the numbers, the behind the scenes stuff, that's definitely something I have to refresh myself on, something I have to learn more about. So I think that next year is going to be really the time where I spend a lot of time going over that, trying to learn more on the back end of numbers and things like that and how the team can use those.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't make heads or tails of the numbers, not even in 2K. I just see red, green. All right, I got to add another player to make that green. But yeah, I would love to learn numbers as well. As far as the draft, I mean, the only player I'd want to see on this team, and I mean, we have a minuscule chance of getting him, but I don't see it happening, would be Kling Kong. I mean, Donovan Clingan is an absolute beast. He fits that exact mold that you just described right there, with the unfortunate part of it being is the man's going to be a top 5 draft pick, and I don't see the ping pong balls falling our way. So other than him, this really hasn't been the best of drafts for bigs, I'll just say. But
hey, then again, this is the same chance we have to win the number 1 overall that we did with Derrick Rose. So who knows? Maybe we have a year where we get, Angel Reese, we get Caleb Williams, and the Bulls magically get a top 3 pick, and just all of Chicago transitions.
I could see the news headlines already. Are there any Chicago-born stars in the draft that like Derrick Rose?
Chicago just overly go for?
That Adam Silver's like, you know what? Just toss a few extra balls in there for them. Just keep it quiet. Okay. Do it.
If they win right now, it'd be great for the league. It's okay.
Yeah, like, come on, look at them. How low can you get?
Let's just get an extra ball for each year Billy Donovan gets an extension. Just add those. We'll be set.
Yeah. Somehow, like, the whole entire cage is full of just Bulls balls then. Speaking of the rumor mill and acquiring players, I know that I like this little habit that the Bulls are starting to become the Lakers of the East when it comes to like who's rumored to come here. It seems like every year now we're like rumored to get this big name player, and we all get our hopes up, and then we're like, oh no, we just got Torrey Craig and Javon Carter. But I've heard connections to Spida. I've heard connections to Paul George, like you said, Trey, unfortunately, like we said, and Nick Claxton. But who would you say is a realistic player to acquire during this offseason?
I think realistic is really just Really just Trey Young, like out of those three. He's really the only one that's realistic. I think I saw somebody talk about Paul George's contract, and if he were to be signed and traded to us, like it would only cover like 20 million of Zach's contract. So we would have to like find some other people from the Clippers. And I don't think they want to give us more than Paul George for Zach LaVine off an
Right.
injury. Donovan Mitchell, I would love Donovan Mitchell on this team. Him next to Kobe, and then Io at the 3, Patrick at the 4 would be just amazing. I don't see that happening as well. I don't think the Bulls can afford him, if we're being
No,
honest.
no.
Unless we're gonna, trade Zach and then get rid of Lonzo immediately, and then somehow trade DeMar too. But I feel like Trey Young's the only one that's realistic. But I pray that the Bulls understand that we don't want him.
Yeah.
Like I would have to change my name to Let's Talk Milwaukee Bucks if that happens. Like, I can't support a team. Like as much of a good human he is, like I've heard great things. I know um people have said like he's a really great person off the court.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
I can't I can't do the on court decisions. Right? He shoots just like Kobe White, sometimes terrible shots he shouldn't shoot, but with the same type of issues that you have with Zach. So like we're
Yeah.
getting rid of Zach to add a shorter version of Zach with even less defense than Zach,
Yep.
in hopes that he comes here and like changes. But I hope that doesn't happen. As far as like what you were saying about Chicago being the new Lakers, I think Chicago's always been that type of team. It's never, and I was thinking about this. I'm really happy you asked this because I was thinking about it earlier of how I would answer a question like this, so it works out. I think the issue with the Bulls is not the city, it's the coaches, it's the front office. Everyone knows Chicago is the place to be when it comes to fan base, right? Yes,
Yep.
we loved Cubs. Yes, we love the Sox. Yes, we love the Sky. Yes, but the Bulls and the Bears are our teams.
Yep.
We will die for those teams, right? People risk getting shot going to the United Center just to watch a game. It's because we love our teams. We love players who give 100%. And if you're a person who comes here and you play your heart out, which most NBA players do, especially the superstars, you're going to go down as one of the best people we've ever seen.
Yep.
Right? When you look at this team after Michael, after Derrick Rose, there's not a lot of superstars in that gap. So
No.
if a Paul George was to come here, you're immediately like the 5th or 6th best player we've had on this team. We already love you.
Yeah.
So I think the issue has always been the Reinstorts and
Mhm.
just the ownership's terrible. Everyone says they're cheap. They don't have the best record of how they treat players.
Right.
And that's something that really gets into players' mindsets. I don't think a lot of people in the league love Billy Donovan. As much as
No.
we
Yeah.
hear how good of a coach he is, he was great in college. But in the NBA, he has not been
Yep.
the best coach. So if you're a player, you're like, I love the city. I love the fan base, but I got to play for that coach, for that owner,
Yes.
who at some
Yes.
point will probably trade me just to do something special. That's where you have the issue. And you
Yes.
see it. Like, look at all the people we've traded. Wendell hates us. Jimmy hates us. Lori hates us. Like, every star we've had on this team that we've traded hates us.
Yep.
We even traded Derek when no one wanted him to get traded. Like, this is
Right.
a team that ruins everything the fan base wants.
Right. There's also a team that had security escort the best coach we've had since Phil Jackson out after winning too many games for playing too many players, or playing players for too many minutes for that matter, in Tom Thibodeau, which that's a puzzling thing in and of itself. So
Yeah. Also, you could have told him something. Like I feel like people like I love Tom, but I feel like if front office was like, "Hey, we need you to not do this, or we will fire you." I feel like he wouldn't have played them as much. Like I feel like this is a thing where it's Tom Thibodeau. You know what you're getting. The Bulls front office didn't care about Tom Thibodeau playing his players until Derrick Rose got hurt.
right,
I
exactly.
guarantee you they were
Exactly.
like, we love him. The way he pushes this team, the players love him. The way he comes in, he grinds it out. Everything we hear about Billy Donovan, he works hard. He's very detailed. He doesn't let people slide. Cool. Thibodeau did the same thing. If Derrick Rose
Yep.
doesn't get hurt and we win a championship, Thibodeau is seen as one of the greatest coaches we've ever had on this team.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because if you notice that immediately after, I mean, a season after Derrick Rose got hurt, when Joakim Noah became kind of the star of the team, that was where the issue came in, where he was telling them to limit Joakim Noah's minutes. And it's like, well, wait a second now. You want to win games. How am I supposed to win games with my best player on the bench? You know what I mean? So I totally feel for Tom. But again, it all falls into the front office. Look at the history of Chicago sports. Cubs, new owner wins a World Series. Blackhawks, new owner wins a World Series. Unfortunately, the Reinsdorf, in my opinion, and you can comment if you think differently, his only interest is the profit margin for the team. When you sell out stadiums, when you sell out gear, when you sell out insert whatever here, what's your real motivation to spend that extra money or to go that extra mile to get a championship? Fans are going to buy tickets nonetheless, whether you're diehard fans or foreigners just coming to see the Bulls play for the first time. We're going to sell out. So boycotting the team is not going to happen. Gear, our gear is probably what was it, third, fourth best-selling gear this year? Worldwide. So that's not going to be
$145 a pop at that.
Exactly. So, there's really no answer to saving this team unless we find an owner that truly wants to win and restore winning basketball, not competitive basketball, but winning basketball back to the city of Chicago.
Can we be competitive for a championship? Like that's another C word we need.
Another C word.
Championship. But we had this conversation at work. I think the difference with the Bulls and the White Sox, the issue here is people talk about how bad the White Sox are this year. They're absolutely, like, if you think the Bulls are bad, the White Sox are absolutely trash. It comes down to the TV deals that he gets off these two teams, the merch, I know the other day they had that doubleheader where there was barely anybody in the stands. He doesn't care. The Bulls sold out all year. That paid for everything he needed to worry about for the Sox. Like, this man has two teams that make so much money that if one team is bad and doesn't sell out, like, people keep saying, oh, the Bulls fans should stop going to the games. Tourists are still going to the games.
Correct.
People forget how big the Bulls are outside of Chicago. This isn't like, Minnesota, where it's, oh, if we're mad, we just stop showing up and no one shows up. There's people who travel the world to come here to just watch this team. Are you going to tell someone from the UK who's going to take a plane to Chicago to see their team that they've watched for the last 20 years to not do it?
No.
Right?
Shout out Neil, by the way, who just did exactly that this year. Shout out Neil.
He got his jersey signed.
He did.
That's what I mean. Like, you're going to sell tickets. It doesn't matter. So me not buying a ticket doesn't mean anything because there's going to be, 20 other thousand people who buy a ticket. And so we're still going to do what we have to do. The issue here is the Bulls need to understand that they have to commit to telling us blatantly what's going to happen. You talked about the Cubs. I was Cubs fans through all of the terrible we suck years. Yep. So I love when people tell me about the Cubs. I was with the Cubs when the Cubs were being made fun of every single year for not winning a championship. But they sat down and said, look, we have a new owner. We have a new plan. We're going to suck for the next 4 years. If you can deal with that, we'll be great. But we're going to suck. So just know now.
Yeah.
If the Bulls, and I told Hate this, if the Bulls came out and are like, we're going to suck for 3.5 years, but it's going to get us all the draft picks, you're going to look at OKC, we're going to do that route, we're going to be bad, we're going to do all the things we need to do, but if you guys trust us, we have a plan, we're supposed to be bad, then we would all be okay.
Yeah.
We're all going to be terrible anyway, so, like, at least we would know why we're terrible. Like, when you say we're going to suck and you're terrible, we're like, okay, cool, great, we're doing this for fun. But when you go, we're consistent, wait to the offseason, wait to see what we do. We're going to be competitive. We think this team can do it. And then you give us the product that we've seen that does nothing but make us think that you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I agree 100%. It's one thing we don't have is, I don't want to say, it's that direction. I would be totally okay with, hey, the next 3 years, we're going to be that 2003 team, with Eddie Curry, Tyson Chandler. We're going to be like that maybe 3 more years. But then after that, we're going to be better than that 2010 year with Derrick Rose. I would be fine. Take it. Yeah. Take my money now.
Right. We're going to be terrible for Cooper Flag. Okay, cool. Great. Hey, at least I know what we're trying to do. Like, that's all I want to know is what the plan is.
Yeah. We sucked for 30 years. I can do another 3. That's fine.
That's why when people complain about the team, I'm like, we've been terrible. I don't understand. Like it's sad because we want them to do good, but it's not like every year, like it's not like we're going into the season like a Boston where we're like we have championship mentality this year. Every year
Right.
we go. I hope that we can make 500.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the goalpost for Bulls fans
How
every year.
competitive is that when you're rooting for a team to finish 500? I mean, that
Yeah,
was the goal this year. We're like, I don't care if we make the play, and I just want this team to finish
yeah.
500. How sad is that? Uh, Before we move on, last question here. Expectations for next season, where do we finish conference wise, division wise, playoff berth? What do you think this organization does, and where do you think we end up?
I think we do take a step forward. Um,
Okay.
from listening to AK, it seemed like the way he answered questions seemed like he understands he can't do what he did before.
Yeah.
Right? Saying, I understand this team's not good. We're going to have to make changes. Everything's on the table. Everything's an option. Really shows you that he's understanding this is not what is needed. So I feel like they're going to make changes. I feel like we might see an offseason. And, I don't know if it'll happen. I hope it does, but we might see an offseason like we did his first year where they
That would be
surprise us
nice.
and they revamp this team. Maybe we do trade a Alex Caruso and a DeMar DeRozan, and we find a way to trade Vooch to a team and we completely overhaul everything. But I do think that they understand there has to be changes. I think after an offseason of what Kobe went through this year, I think he's going to understand what part of his game has to be improved. He understands the shooting. He knows he can score almost anyone now. Now his summer has to be spent on what do I do when I get double teamed?
Yep.
What do I do when teams are putting active focus on me at all times? And
Yep.
once he gets that down, he becomes a new player. I would assume he has to understand that he could literally lay the ball up with almost anybody in this league,
Yeah.
right? I need him to just run
Yeah.
every
That's one
play.
thing we didn't do was run. We were so flat footed.
Well, we did, but then DeMar would touch the ball and just like walk it down the court.
Yeah.
Like we would go
Yeah.
like 4 fast breaks, and DeMar would be like, "No, I got it. We're good. Just slow it
Yeah.
down. I
Yeah.
know we just
Slow
scored
down.
12 times.
I'm
My legs hurt.
35,
You know how many minutes I'm playing this year right now?
Yeah, I'm
Like,
leading
slow
the
it down.
league.
Walk.
Yeah,
Um, but if we can get Io to play consistent, and I think we will. I think we're going to see more Julian Phillips minutes. I think Patrick Williams, I really think this summer is going to put a lot of work in being injured a second time. I don't think he's going to get the contract he wants just
Mhm.
because at this point you can't ask for that contract.
Right.
You've been injured twice, seriously. Like you need to understand this is going to be a play type of thing. Um, but I think he comes back next year. We saw him starting to put it together. If we do trade Zach, I think DeMar's understanding that he wants to take a step back. You can see it throughout the games that he's starting to really push the young, players to do things more. I think next season we're going to see a big step from Patrick Williams. Julian Phillips will put on some weight. So a lot of those attacking the rim moments where he misses a layup or he's trying to go for a dunk and just can't get it, I think that'll change. So I
Yep.
think the young players are going to do what they need to do. We're going to see an active, fun team to watch. Kind of like the Thunder, where you're just seeing
Yep.
them do things where it's like everyone's young, we're playing hard. But I think the big change has to be you have to get a center. You
Yep.
just have to get a young center. You got every other part of this roster has a young player on it that can do
Mhm.
what you needed to do, except for center.
Yep. The one thing that I was most disappointed with this year and to this day, and I know I know he's a G League player, sure, but besides Sonogo dominating the G League, we never even gave him a chance to come up and play crucial minutes because we'd rather take the risk at putting Terry Taylor, 6'5" Terry Taylor at center than develop a young I don't know if you followed UConn basketball, but Sonogo was a beast even in UConn. So if he's a
Yeah.
beast in the college, beast in the G League, what is holding up his NBA transition? I mean, the man comes in and registers a 2020 game, something that only Victor Wembanyama, a quote unquote
Yeah.
unicorn in this draft, has ever done. And you reward him with, well, thanks, but no thanks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I, I think the big thing with Sonogo, though, is from what I've seen in the games he was playing, he has an issue with laying the ball up close to the rim.
he does, yes.
And that's something you just can't have on an NBA. Like, you can't be an NBA basketball player and miss a wide open layup under the basket. Like, you just
No,
can't. Like, if you're playing the Bostons, if you're playing the 76ers, those type of teams, that's not going to make it. Like,
no.
he is great. I think he can be a big piece. Honestly, I think I would rather see him at power forward. if I'm being honest. Like, I think he's
Yeah.
a little undersized. But I just see his game. I see his strength that he uses. That doesn't work against an Embiid. That's not going to
No,
work
not
against
at
a
all.
Jokic. Like, those two teams are going to destroy you. You put not even a Holmgren at this point. Like, he's
Yeah.
put on weight. Like, you're going to see these teams with him as our center destroy us on the boards. And that's the issue the Bulls had all season is rebounding. So when you talk about him, yes, he had a 2020 game, but it was a 2020 game at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So you got to have that like thing. Like Patrick Williams had a 30-point game. Like it's one of those things where you really put too much into it. But it's one of those things where even when he was having such a great game, that 20-20 game should have been a 30-20 game.
Yeah, that's very
They just
true.
kept missing wide open layups. Like that's an issue. And it's the same thing that Marco had when he was here. He was great offensively, but his defense was so terrible. It was like, this part of you is not an NBA player. You
Yeah.
just can't get minutes not having that type of thing. So I think over the summer, he's going to have to work on that. He's going to have to really put effort into his game. He's going to have to learn how to play against bigger, stronger players now. When you played the NCAA, he was strong. You know, he could body people. That's not happening here.
No.
So he's going to
Yeah.
have to learn how to play that game, learn how to really box people out who are not just taller than him, but completely stronger than him and smarter than him when it comes to the IQ of the game. So I would love to watch him move to like a power forward, a backup power forward behind Patrick Williams, learning from that type of game where it's like just learn to kind of be around and make smart plays when you can. And I would love to get a super tall, like I said, young center. I'm hoping 7 foot at least. The way the NBA is going, 7 foot is like a minimum now. Like I need you,
Yep.
like the big man's coming back, 7'4", 7'3". Like
Yep.
you got to have a big man who can defend and who can play good defense. Because if you do end up, say, keeping Andre Drummond, could you imagine Claxton and Drummond in the back, like a Giannis type of, Brook Lopez or Bobby Portis duo with Iota Sumu, if Lonzo comes back healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and Javonte Green or Patrick Williams?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Oh
like
man.
it's just what do you do to that team? Like we can cover, we can switch. If you get biased, we have two people at the rim. Drummond doesn't have to worry about covering an entire floor behind everyone. He just has to do half. Now you're looking at an entirely new defensive scheme. So I
Yep.
think that's what it's going to come down to is making smart decisions on not getting superstars, but getting players who fit what we need. I think as Bulls fans, we run into an issue where we always want the superstar player, right? It
Yes.
runs into that 2K issue. We're going to trade Zach LaVine and get Giannis back. It's like that doesn't work in real life. You're going to trade Zach LaVine and you're going to get, like a second string bench player and some extra capital in a draft pick. And you're going to have to
Yep.
hope that that person just didn't get minutes where they played. So
Yeah.
it's going to
You're
come
gonna
down to
get
that. But
Jeremy Grant and you're gonna like it.
yeah. And he's going to think he's number 2 on this team.
Yes, exactly. But I guess really only time will tell. I certainly do hope we do make an improvement from next season, both as a spectator, but as a fan of podcasting as well. It really takes a toll on on the mood of the show when you're just constantly
Yes.
reporting about negativity. But we powered through it in that first season, so hopefully we can be happier the next season.
Yep.
Q, thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. We love having guests, but we can't let you go just yet because as a guest on the Horns Over Hoops podcast, it's almost a mandatory guaranteed thing that you must play Horns or Thorns. So you down to play?
Let's do it.
All right. If you guys are learning for the first time what Horns or Thorns is, it's a standard this or that format where I ask you a scenario, and if you agree with it, you say Horns. If you disagree with it, you say Thorns. You can choose to explain your answer if you want. That's optional, but ready to play?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Question number 1. The Chicago Bulls will let DeMar DeRozan walk this season. Horns or Thorns?
Thorns. I
You
think
think
from
we're
everything
sign him?
we've heard, everything we've heard, they love DeMar. They're going to sign him back. The only way that doesn't happen is if DeMar asks for some like super big contract that the Bulls just are like, it's going to destroy us if we give it to you. But when you look at the team, you look at how they talked about it, you look at Kobe saying, give him whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I definitely think they're going to try to sign him, especially if you're looking at a lot of people aren't talking about it. I think the Bulls are planning on trading Lonzo.
That was my second question. So my second question is, Lonzo Ball gets traded during the season at some point, horns or thorns?
Horns. I think he might get traded before the season.
Really?
I think the Bulls are pushing that he's doing great. Everything's up to scale. No setbacks. They're pushing that narrative. Lonzo's dropping videos of him doing dunks. They want people to know that he's healthy, right?
Yes.
And that's because I think they want to try to find a team that will take a risk.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's
Mm-hmm.
young, who thinks, hey, maybe we can make him do something. Maybe he'll come back and we don't need him the first year. The same way they did with Kevin Durant with Brooklyn.
Yep.
Right? Oh, it's okay. We're trying to rebuild. We're okay waiting a year because we're not going to do anything this year. Let's get him now. And let's hope he becomes the person. So I think they're definitely going to trade Lonzo. I think they're going to get rid of Zach. I think that's just the writings on the wall. So with those two people gone, I think you gotta keep at least a veteran on here. So I think you got to keep DeMar. He helps the young players, and hopefully we get rid of Vooch too. So we just have DeMar.
Yep. And if that's not enough, back to Lonzo, his $20 million expiring purse is enough to lure a team to take a risk on him. Like, hey, man, not only is he coming off an injury, but he's got 1 year left on his contract. He's going to be wanting to play for another, not just big contract, but an NBA contract as a whole. So I could see a lot of teams chomping at the bit to get him. But as far as the Bulls standpoint, question number 3 is horns or thorns. The Bulls acquire a star caliber player during the offseason.
I'm gonna say horns.
Okay.
I think the way we're seeing AK make his statements, I think the way the team has been going, plus with the way people have been talking about it, it looks like the Bulls are looking for a star.
Yep.
Right. Yep. Saying this needs to change, saying this team doesn't work, these three don't work together, doesn't symbolize not getting a star. And if you get rid of Lonzo and you get rid of Zach LaVine, somebody's got to take that spot. So I think we'll get a star. I don't think it'll be a superstar.
No. Well, that cancels out question number 4, because question number 4, your star that we would be getting is horns or thorns. The Bulls draft Bronny James in an attempt to lure LeBron James to Chicago.
Thorns.
Thank goodness.
Just no. Like, in all, I love LeBron, but just having Bronny on this team would make me sad. Wow. I didn't think I would ever say this. I would rather have Javon Carter.
Oh,
I would rather have Javon Carter on this team.
Yeah.
Because Bronny's going to do the same thing he's doing. Sit on the bench and not play. So we're going to do all this. We're going to waste a draft pick.
Just to get a LeBron James.
Exactly. Like, and then you're only going to have LeBron for like a year. Because the point here is LeBron wants to play with both his kids. So if Bronny gets drafted and he's playing with Bronny, when Bryce gets drafted, if he's still playing, he's leaving whatever team he's on.
Yes.
So you're just setting yourself up to lose a superstar, and then you're stuck with Bronny.
Yep. I said it. I don't see LeBron signing a multi-year deal for the rest of his career. It's going to be 1 year deals from here on out until it's over to go play with his kids. So horns or thorns? Question number 5 is the Bulls keep Zach LaVine to see next season.
Repeat that, the end of that again.
So the Bulls will keep Zach LaVine and will be playing next season.
I think it's a horns. I think they're going to keep him for a while because teams want to see what he can do. I think Zach started to show before he got injured again that he could play a little bit of team basketball. Right? He started trying to change his game a little bit, and then he got injured. So I think that, 1, they're going to want to see, is he okay? But 2, it's going to be, was that just a fluke? Or is he going to continue to do the things that he's been doing? I think we'll probably end up getting rid of, like I said, I think we're going to get rid of Lonzo's contract probably a little bit earlier, probably before the season, if that. So I think that you're going to have teams waiting to see what happens, see if they can have a Bulls collapse and get him for a little bit cheaper. So I think it's going to be a little waiting game for the Zach thing. As much as they want to get him out early, it's going to take a little bit.
I know we are, again, chopping at the bit to get to see some sort of movement with him. But question 6, the Bulls finish above 500 next season. Horns or thorns?
Horns.
Perfect.
I think we do it.
I think
think we
so.
do
It's
it.
the
I think.
year. It'll be the year.
Do we make the
And
playoffs still? Though is the question. That's
uh depends how close Jerry Reinsdorf is to the luxury tax.
yeah. Yeah.
And no, we're a little too close. There's players here that have
Let's pull it
clauses.
back. Let's pull it back.
Yeah.
I
Billy,
don't know
you
if I
will
want to pay
bench
yet.
Kobe. Yeah.
Kobe has a ankle injury that we can't talk about. We don't know how long he'll be out, but it'll probably be until the playoffs.
Yeah. And then a little bit after that too.
Yeah.
All right. Now the questions get interesting. Question 7. Portillo's is overrated. Horns or thorns?
Horns.
Horns. You're Portillo's fan?
I'm not. I think it's
No?
overrated. Horns.
Really?
I think it's
Okay.
overrated. I think it is overrated. I think the hot dog is a normal hot dog. As much as people hate to hear it, like it's just normal hot dog. Like the cake milkshakes are terrible to me. So like it's just one of those things. Every time I go to Portillo's, I get a regular hot dog, and I'm like, this is okay, but I've had better.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the hot dog because my question 8 was question 8. Gene and Jude's is a superior hot dog to Portillo's.
Yes.
Horns or thorns? Yes.
Yes. And if you guys haven't tried it, Michael's Beef House in Oak Park,
Ooh.
great hot
Okay.
dog. Very tasty. They have a 2 hot dog combo meal. I grew up over there. Amazing hot dog. Also have other good food. But hey, like I would take that over Portillo's hot dog any day.
How does that match up with like a Home Depot hot dog?
Nothing matches to a Home Depot hot dog. Like you can eat Home Depot hot dogs with nothing on it, and it's still good. Like they put something in that hot dog. There's some type of drugs in Home Depot hot dogs. Like I remember my mom used to like go to Home Depot, and it's like anytime we go, I'm like, I have to get a hot dog here. I don't know what it is, but I have to. Like I have to know that I'm getting one, or I don't want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Before you go in the store, can I at least get a hot dog at the end? Sure. Because they have it at the end, not at the entrance. They wait for you to get out. And second to last here, it's called the Bean, not Cloudgate. Horns or thorns?
Yeah, it's debate.
Yeah.
It's
That's
debate.
kind of
You
like
can change
Sears
the name.
Towers.
It's never gonna change. Like
Yeah.
that's how you know people are born in Chicago.
That's right. That and because we say we're from Chicago, but we're really from like a suburb 45 minutes around the actual city.
Yeah. Or you say that you don't anybody who says that they eat deep dish pizza is not from Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. We literally just had another a discussion about this a few casts ago where I'm like, I mean, this is just me. New York style is way better than deep dish.
Yep.
Or tavern
much
style
better.
for sure,
So much better. Deep dish is just too much.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
if I order pizza, I want a pizza. But like with deep dish, I eat one slice. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I don't
Yeah.
want pizza anymore. Like it's just no.
Yeah. Like I want something that I could eat multiple pieces, not one piece, and now I have to throw away the other, 7
Yeah.
pieces.
And then it's
I mean,
always
it
gonna
is
be like
delicious,
who makes
though.
it. It's
Yeah,
good. Well, it
exactly.
depends on who makes it. Because sometimes they mess up. They put too much like sauce and then it's just not right, or it's too little cheese, and then you're just not happy. There's so many things that go wrong. Or the thing I hate about deep dish is when you do eat more, it is so hard to heat it up and have the
Yeah.
entire thing hot. Like there's always a cold spot in your deep dish
Yes.
pizza if you heat it up the next day.
Yes. I'm glad somebody else feels that same pain. There's no good way to heat up a deep dish slice.
No.
So eat it there. And last but not least, horns or thorns, making a podcast is the easiest thing in the world.
Horns. It is easy to make one. To run one is a different story. But honestly, it took me, as far as the podcast, it took me what, 2 days to have like a logo, the YouTube, Instagram,
Mhm.
like everything. Like
Did
making
you
the podcast is easy.
how'd you make the logo? Like where'd you get your inspiration?
So I mean, honestly, the same way I get with any logos I make. I kind of just sat down. Like I use Kittle. Kittle's for that one I use Canva actually for the
Canva?
Bulls one. but like just kind of like putting text in. I had an idea of kind of wanting to see like the text of the word. So just doing that and just trying different fonts over and over and over and over again until something looked right. And then once that happened, it just was a test of like wanting to find a way to put a bull in there. So I just kept like generating random different bulls logos through AI
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what looked right and how I could edit it to make it right. And I just
Yep.
combined everything together.
Yep. The magic of AI. Before you used to have this vision. Now it's like, hey, make me a Bulls, surfing in the thunderstorm, and it makes it for you right there.
Saves
Uh
me so much time.
oh,
So
tell
much
me
time.
about it.
Like,
Well, Q, thanks for playing Horns or Thorns. As a reward, we're going to give you the floor. You can address the fans and the Horniacs yourself. Go ahead, 30, tell them what you got to say.
yeah. Well, one, thank you guys for having me on. Thank you for giving me a space to talk my Bulls, because that's the reason I do this, is to be able to talk to this team and have fun with it. Sal, it's great to meet you. It's great to be able to kind of see more of this podcasting. I love collaborating. So hopefully this isn't the last time we do this.
Oh,
And
definitely
if you're
not.
if you're looking to find me, you can find me on all social media. Twitter, I'm not going to say X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Let's Talk Bulls _. Or if you are an NBA fan and you want to hear more about NBA stuff or watch more highlight driven things, you can also find me at the Got Next podcast at Got Next _podcast on all social media as well. And with that, just check it out. I'm building a family and I'm trying to just let you guys have some therapy with me while this team's terrible.
That was probably one of the best explanations I've ever heard. Yeah, Twitter is like we mentioned, it's like the Sears Tower and it's like the Bean. It's always going to be called Twitter, no matter what they
Yeah.
change the name to.
Nope,
So
I got to keep it.
well, Quinton, again, thank you for joining us. If you're not following him, please do. He's an absolute incredible human being. He has some great insights. He views the game from a fair standpoint, not a one-sided standpoint. I do appreciate that, because as fans, like I said earlier, we do get in a bad habit where we're just pitching a tantrum that the team's not doing what they want. But when you find a fan that can approach it at a fair playing field, you kind of want to gravitate towards them, and you do exactly that. You're doing a tremendous job on your side there, and you're a rookie much like us. So I see sky's the limit for you, and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And yeah, we will definitely do this again if you're willing. So
anytime.
Maybe we can get you together with Hayes. We can do like a big collab. So
I'm down to do that.
That would be fun. Hopefully my co-host will show up. I got one who's buying a house right now. So shout out Dan buying a house. Yeah.
That's way more important than this.
Yeah. So, I mean, congrats to him. Congrats to Dan for buying a house. I mean, whatever. Yeah. Well, Quinton, thank you again. And to all the Horniacs out there, even though our team is mediocre, again, like we said on Twitter, our fans are second to none when it comes to this. Keep following the Bulls, staying patient, keep following us, myself, this podcast, as well as Quinton. Let's talk the Bulls. Keep your head up. Good times are coming. It's not all dark clouds on the horizon. And with that, we ask our Bulls fans to see red and go Bulls. Good night, everybody.